All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some seriously fascinating source material from Rob Bell that tackles those massive, age-old existential questions we all think about: heaven, hell, and the very nature of God. But Bell isn't just handing us some dry theology lesson here. He's really examining how our everyday underlying assumptions completely shape our entire worldview. So, let's jump right into where this whole thought experiment actually kicks off.
Our source material starts with this incredibly surprising catalyst at a local church art show. Picture this: people had brought in all sorts of paintings and sculptures to display, and there was this one really compelling piece that featured a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. Lots of attendees were stopping, staring at it, really taking it in. But at some point during the show, somebody actually attached a handwritten note directly to the artwork, and the note just said, "Reality check, he's in hell." I mean, Gandhi. In hell? Whoever wrote this felt such an absolute, unwavering certainty about it that they had this overwhelming urge to let literally everyone else at the art show know it too.
So, let's officially kick off Part 1, the art show incident. That one single anonymous sticky note is actually the perfect entry point for Bell to peel back the layers of this massive theological puzzle. I mean, it immediately sparks a whole cascade of staggering questions. If someone is absolutely certain that Gandhi is in hell, it forces us to look at the math of that theology, right? Like, will only a tiny select few actually make it to heaven? And conversely, does that mean billions and billions of people are going to burn forever? The sheer absolute nature of that note basically demands that we confront this specific terrifying binary head-on.
Which brings us to Part 2, the rules of salvation.
Because if the stakes are really that high and the numbers are that skewed, well, the mechanics of how it all works suddenly become the most important thing in the universe. How exactly do you secure a spot? Just think about the sheer volume of requirements that are traditionally taught. Is it what you believe, what you say, what you do, who you know? Do you have to be baptized? Or maybe you need to take a specific class. Do you need to be converted, born again? It's this dizzying, overwhelming checklist, and Bell uses it to illustrate the anxiety-inducing hoops people feel they absolutely must jump through just to avoid eternal punishment.
And that naturally leads into Part 3. The theological paradox.
Behind all those exhausting requirements is a core contradiction that Bell drags right out into the light. Millions of people are taught a gospel that, at its core, essentially says God is going to send you to hell unless you believe in Jesus. But when you really break that down, you end up with God as the punisher, ready to send you to hell, right? And you have Jesus as the rescuer, swooping in to save you from hell. So subtly, what gets caught and taught in this entire framework is that Jesus is essentially rescuing you from God.
Which really forces us to ask the ultimate question behind all the others. What is God actually like? Take a second to really think about that. If the absolute core of this theology requires you to be protected from the creator of the universe, what kind of God is that? If we literally need rescuing from the very source of existence itself, what does that say about the actual character of the divine? The source material neutrally outlines the inevitable fallout of this theological paradox, and Bell argues that this framework causes massive, widespread problems. I mean, how could a God you actively need rescuing from ever be considered good? How could a God like that ever be trusted? And how on earth is any of that framed as good news? According to the source, this paradox creates an endless list of absurdities and inconsistencies. For a lot of people looking at this structure from the outside, it just doesn't add up. And Bell notes that this is exactly why so many people want absolutely nothing to do with the Christian faith. They see these inconsistencies, they look at the math, and they abandon the faith entirely, asking themselves why they would ever want to be part of a system built on that kind of fear.
Which finally brings us to Part 4, love wins.
So how exactly does Bell resolve this terrifying tension? Well, he makes the case that our beliefs about heaven and hell, they aren't just about the afterlife. They actually expose our foundational, underlying assumptions about who God truly is. The metrics we use to decide who goes up and who goes down act like a mirror, reflecting our deepest views on the character of the divine. If your version of God is primarily looking for a reason to punish billions of people, well, that exposes a very specific and frankly quite grim worldview.
But Bell's ultimate conclusion from the source material is surprisingly unexpected and honestly really beautiful. He argues that whatever we've been told or taught about those terrifying metrics of salvation, the good news is actually far better than that. Way better than we could probably even imagine. For Bell, the resolution to this whole paradox, the real answer to that sticky note about Gandhi, is profoundly simple. Love wins.
So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. We've seen how one single note at an art show can unravel this massive theological paradox, but take this back to your own life. How do your own assumptions about the afterlife and about reward and punishment shape your overarching worldview? Do your foundational beliefs operate on a strict system of fear and metrics, or do they leave a little room for something more unexpected? Thanks for diving into these complex ideas with me today, and keep questioning the layers behind the information you encounter.